inventory means what? What does inventory mean to you? What is inventory? Sorry? Yes, stock. Means you buy something with the intention to sell it. Yeah, and that is common for any merchandising business. What's a merchandising business? What's a merchandising business, Mr. Kwan? Merchandising business. What's the meaning? Okay. Yeah, but can they sell before they buy? Well, they can now, but traditionally, they have to buy what they sell. Okay, and what is it that they buy and sell? Inventory. Okay, so that's what merchandising. So we're going to look at some things like some key concepts in this topic are ownership of inventory. Again, you need to remember terms of sale from chapter 5, which is what? FOB at shipping point, FOB at destination. We're going to look at that again. And then the last one is we're going to look at inventory management. That is presentation and analysis, just to see how companies, whether they're managing their inventory well or not. Okay, so you can see here the difference between a merchandising company and a manufacturing company. A merchandising company buys and sells the same thing. Yeah, but a manufacturing company buys materials, makes finished goods, and then sells them. So as you can see, for a merchandising company, they only have one inventory. That's what they sell. Whereas a manufacturing company will have raw materials, work in process, and finished goods. So which is more complicated?
Manufacturing.
Yes. Okay, so you need to understand the difference between a manufacturing company and a merchandising company, but for the purposes of this course, we only concentrate on a merchandising company. Alright? So, you already learned from the last topic, if I follow the periodic system or if I follow the perpetual system, I still need to count. At the end of the period, I still need to count the number of units I have in my inventory. We call it a stock take, a physical stock take, a stock count. I need to go and physically count. Now, count, there are many different ways to do a physical stock take. Can I count liquid? Can I count liquid? Contact how many drops? So I cannot. So some are measured by units, some are measured by weight, some are measured by volume. So there are many different ways to count, measure, or weigh. Okay, so we need to do inventory count just to make sure what the systems say and what is actually there are the same. That's if I use perpetual. If I use periodic, I have no choice. I have to count. Why I have to count? Because I need to know my ending inventory so that I can know what is my cost of goods sold. Okay, that's under the periodic system. Under the perpetual system, I do it because I want to make sure my inventory is correct. The system say 2,000, they go and count 1,980. What happened? Yeah, so I have a way of self-checking. Yeah, to make sure the system matches the physical. That's under perpetual. And that way, I can identify shoplifting and employee theft. What's the difference between shoplifting? What's shoplifting? What is shoplifting? You go and lift the shop and take the shop away. What's the meaning of shoplifting? Shoplifting is when your customer come and steal the product. Yeah? Customer is shoplifting, employee is theft. Okay? Normally. Okay, that's what they do to differentiate between the two. But end of the day, missing material or lost goods, yeah, is what we consider to be some of the main reasons why we need to do a physical stock take. And when your staff who work in the shop or work in the store once they know that you're doing a physical stock take, they will be a bit more honest. Yeah, because somebody is checking on them. You understand what I'm trying to say here? So that's very important why we need to do inventory. So as you can see here, most of the time, when we do the inventory check or when we do the inventory count or when we do the stock take becomes very important. We don't do it while our business is going on. Why? Why we don't do it while our business is going on? Why we don't count when the business is going on? Yes, it will keep changing. I count, next thing it's sold. Correct or not? So I don't want to confuse. So most of the time, I will count either at the end of my business day or before the start. Yeah, so there is no disruption because I don't want while I'm counting, my customer is also there looking around the shop trying to buy the products. It's not good. It's very disruptive. So most of the time, businesses do their stock count either at before the start of their business or after the end of the business, or they close their shop for the day. You have to make things easy so they can do a proper inventory count. Okay, so you can see here, you can count, weigh, or measure. Alright? So don't assume every kind of inventory can be counted. Some cannot be counted. Imagine your boss send you to Dong Nai River and say, please count for me the sand on the river bank. How will you count? You go one by one, count. How do you check? Your boss wants to know how much sand there is. What would you do? All of you studied science before, right? I think this come under maths. How do you measure the weight? How do I know how much sand there is? How will I measure sand? Most of the time by weight, right? By kg or by metric ton, right? So how do I know? How many kg or how many ton here, and here? Okay, I'll give you another example. I work for a beer company, right? There is a big tank. There's a big tank here, and there's a big tank. I want to know how much beer is in here. How do I measure? How do I measure? Your boss said, please go and check how much beer in the tank. How do you measure? Have you heard volumetric weight? Yeah, so what you do here, is we can measure the height, right? Correct or not? We can measure the width and we can measure the specific density of the material to calculate the weight. It's an estimate. But you see, next time you observe very carefully, all these so-called small mountains have a standard height. Like this is equal to 2 trucks. Yeah, 1 truckload maybe 2 metric ton. So you roughly know this is 4 metric ton plus or minus. Cannot be jump. Cannot be exact. You understand me? It's an estimate. Yeah. So your customer say, I want to buy sand. You say no. I only want to buy the sand here. Can or cannot? Of course cannot. I take from the top. You understand what I mean? Yeah, so sometimes you need to use your common sense. So when you look at product like sand and silos where you measure, it's not so easy. Whereas in here, it's very easy. You know the height of this tank. You know the circumference of this tank. You put a dipstick. Yeah, you know what's the tank capacity? Let's say the tank capacity is 100,000 liters. Okay? And you know that height times width is approximately 92,000 liters. So you know that given the distance from here to here is not full, you know that this tank is only 92,000 liters and not 100,000 liters. Because there is a tank capacity. Yeah, and there's also a meter outside. Yeah, the meter will tell you how much is there, but how do I know inside here is actually beer? Maybe we'll put water and say it's beer. So how do I know?
Taste, smell, taste, taste.
Yeah, only way is to taste. So I taste at the bottom, I taste at the top. It should be the same, right? If it's not the same, I know it's not beer. Yeah, you see what I mean? So sometimes you go to the market. This is a trick that people who sell in the market all sell by weight, right? Correct or not? So to make it heavier, they pour water on it. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So you are smart, you just drain off the water and weigh again. It makes a big difference in the weight. Or their weighing scale is not calibrated. 1 kg show 2 kg. You understand what I mean? So these are the tricks that people do. Why? Because when you sell by weight, people can always manipulate the weights. Yeah, when you sell by things, whereas when you sell by units, how can you cheat? 1 unit is 1 unit. How can it be 2 units unless you're blind? You understand what I mean? So this is why when you're dealing with products like sand and liquid and products which are sold by weight, always there will be discrepancies. Yeah, but when you sell by units, you know, there's no reason why there should be discrepancy. It's easier. But the point is you need to count, measure or weigh. There's only 3 ways. Can I look at you and say what is your weight? It's not possible, right? You need to be weighed. Correct or not? Right? So how many of you can guess my weight? How heavy do you think I am? 80?
75,
75?
85.
85?
90,
90? See, everybody has got a different weight measure. So what's the best way to do that? I stand on the weighing scale, right?
Yeah.
And no surprise, it will be 90 kgs. Who said 90? Right, that's my weight. Okay, so, all right, so now the next thing is we talk about ownership. Now, why is ownership important? When you run a shop and you are selling something, I must be sure that that belongs to you. You understand what I mean? If the product doesn't belong to you, you cannot claim to be the owner. You understand what I mean? It's like you steal something from another shop and you sell in your shop. No cost of goods sold, sale only. You understand what I mean? So for merchandising business, I must make sure you actually own the product that you are selling. Now, many of the retail shops, frequently the tax office will go and inspect to check. What are they checking for? Like you say, hang nhập khẩu, right? So they go in there and say, okay, show me all the zeta. Show me where you import, whether you pay tax, because many Vietnamese traders bring from overseas but don't pay any tax. So you see what I mean? And then they sell in the shop. So who lose? The government lose the tax on the goods. So they send all these tax people to go to the shop to check the document. You say this is your product, right? Okay, show me the import invoice. Show me the tax that you paid. How did you bring the goods in? And sometimes they cannot show. So okay, government take the goods. Confiscate. Yeah, so you need to be very careful. Okay, these things happen. So that's why it's very important to understand you can only sell what is owned by you, and then you see they use goods in transit. What's the meaning of goods in transit? Sometimes I bought the goods, I already bought the goods, but it's not yet delivered to me. Yeah, I've not received it yet. Let me give you an example. My shop is in Batan High Street. I paid my seller in Chalan, but Chalan not yet delivered to me. Not yet delivered to me, but I paid for it. So it's technically it's mine. Only that it's not with me at the present time. So we call that goods in transit. I mean, it's on the way. It's mine, but it's on the way. You understand what I mean? So that's what we call goods in transit. And again, there are two types. On the buyer side is purchased goods not yet received. On the seller side is sold goods not yet delivered. Example, in my shop, Nguyen came and bought already. So the same goods I cannot sell to somebody else. Only that Nguyen has not come to take it from my shop. So I cannot sell this Nguyen's goods to somebody else. So the shop must make sure this is not included anymore in their product because it's already sold. So that the same goods cannot be sold to somebody else. So it depends on which side you're on. Buyer side means purchased goods not yet received. If it's seller's point of view is invoice goods or sold goods not yet delivered. Okay, so when you read the question in your exam, you should ask yourself, who is the buyer, who is the seller? Whose goods in transit are we talking about? Yeah, so sometimes you need to reorient your thinking to who is buyer, who is seller, and does the buyer, who owns the goods? Is it the buyer or the seller? And that's why we need to have these ownership rules. Okay, so we call it legal title to the goods, and that is determined by the terms of sale, which is the same as what you saw in chapter 5 earlier. There are two types, FOB shipping point and FOB destination. So in the last chapter, we told you the best way to identify what type of FOB it is to determine who has actually paid the freight cost. If the buyer is paying the freight cost, you know it's FOB shipping point. If the seller is paying the freight cost, you should know that it is FOB destination. Okay, now we're telling you we can use the same concept to decide who is the owner of the goods. So imagine I am Batan High, I bought the goods from Chalan, and I told Chalan, okay, my Grab is going to come and pick it up. So who's the owner of the goods? Batan High or Chalan? Yes, of course Batan High, because Batan High is going to pay for the transport cost from Chalan to Batan High, but Batan High cannot call it finished goods, they have to call it goods in transit. Why? Because I don't have it here now. But I'm still the owner. You understand what I mean? So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, your mother and father will always be the owner of you. You understand what I mean? You cannot suddenly lose ownership. Yeah, you cannot say, no, it's not my father, it's not my mother. It's there for life. Same. Yeah, we have ownership rules. Yeah, you can call it yours even though it's not with you. So we call that goods in transit. Is it clear or not clear? Okay, good. So please read now the two boxes on the right side. See whether it makes sense to you. All right, so let's look at this question. Who can tell me what's the answer to this question?
D.
So, what's the answer?
D.
D? How many of you say D? How many of you say C? How many of you say B? Anybody says A? So the correct answer is hey, you've got an exam tonight, so you're gonna have to decide. Get A, B, C, or D. Who knows? You might get the same question. Mister? Misty? D? Misty? A? Hang on. D? Miss B? D number 3? D, oh sorry. D number C? Okay, well, the correct answer is D, but A is also correct. Yeah, look at A again. Yeah, of course D is the best answer, but A is equally good. You understand what I mean? So can anybody tell me why A is equally right? What is a public carrier? Public carrier means the transport company, right? So the buyer could have arranged for the transport company to deliver the goods, right? So the public carrier now is carrying the goods to me. It's like saying Grab is on the way to deliver the goods to me, which means who is the owner of the goods? The buyer must be the owner of the goods, right?
Yes.
Correct? Huh?
Yes.
So A is an equally good answer. But of course, I need to refer to the terms of sale. Therefore, D is officially the answer, but A is also acceptable. You understand what I mean? Clear, not clear? Alright, good. So next we look at something called consigned goods. Now what's the meaning of consigned goods? So let's imagine we walk into the Siute Co-op Mart. You understand? There's a lot of products in there, right? Do you know that some of those products are not owned by Co-op Mart? It's owned by the supplier. That means Co-op Mart says, yeah, I give you the space, you put your product there. If you sell, good for me. If you don't sell, you can take it away. Yeah, all those food products. Yeah, how do I know food products? Food products because they have labeling. You know that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you know that, right? So most of your food products are actually consigned goods because Co-op Mart, they don't want to buy, cannot sell, and then they lose money. So they tell the supplier, you see this space here, I rent the space for you. You put your product here. Sorry, I give you the space, you put your product there. If you can sell, good. Cannot sell, I'm sorry, you're going to take it away. So sometime, I don't know what time of the day, 2 times you can see people taking product out and people bringing new product in. So this is a classic example of consigned goods. Consigned goods means the seller remains the owner of the goods, although the goods are in the buyer's location. Let me give you another example. You have a very expensive motorbike, but your nhà is in the Chong Ham, it's in the lane, nobody can see. So you tell your friend, I know you have a shop on Dien Bien Phu Street. Every day millions of motorbikes pass, so I'm going to put my motorbike there and put a sign there for sale, Liên Lạc, and put my phone number. So which give me a better chance of selling, in my hand or on the main street? Of course on the main street. So I tell my friend, because it is in your shop, if I sell, I give you 20%. My friend is very happy. He's happy, right? Because all he needs to do is just show his motorbike there. If somebody drive past, they see the number, they come to buy, he gets 20%. And Harley Davidson, not cheap. Huh? You know Harley Davidson, you like, right?
Yes.
Miss V, Harley Davidson, you like? No? Who likes Harley Davidson? Yeah, it's a big bike and it's very expensive. So that's an example. So you tend to do that for very expensive kind of goods. Yeah? Expensive because people cannot afford to buy it, but they can afford to sell first. Sell first, buy later. Good, right? You understand? So consigned goods is another way to explain it is I sell first and then I buy it. Okay? Is this clear or not clear? So we use it for maybe expensive cars or boats or antique. You know what antique is? What's an antique? Huh?
Old thing.
Yes, old things, right? So sometimes you go to the old quarter in Hanoi. You know, some of those shops, they sell antiques. I think in Ho Chi Minh also, I know where is that street. Huh? There's one street near the circle, the Batang Hai circle. What is that? One of those streets, I don't know what it's called, but they also sell antiques. Yeah, and those are really good. Huh? But how to tell? I don't know. Okay, so this is an interesting, very challenging exercise. This will test you on what is and what is not to be included in your inventory. I'll give you 10 minutes. What should be included and what should not be included in your inventory? 5 more minutes, huh?
Dừng tạm. Tạm dừng, tạm dừng.